Okay, so welcome to Luke Vu PhD. I'm a psychologist in Maroubra, Sydney, and I wanted to talk today a little bit more about failure to launch. Now, if you saw my trailer, it's failure to launch. It's a label that we give young people who are struggling with their transition in and throughout adulthood. I see it in adolescents transitioning to to legal adults. I also see it in students transitioning to their first employment roles, and also the interns as well. It's worth highlighting there are a couple of just symptoms that gets lumped into a failure to launch, and that's low motivation, lack of direction, lack of basic skills, lack of focus, this lack of committed action towards meaningful goals, and other traits too. Sort of they expect a lot from others, and they often don't reciprocate. I want to introduce this concept of being able to launch yourself, because I think that's really critical. It's just lots and lots of, suggestions and hypotheses on why we even have this as a problem, and why it's growing. But I like the idea of being able to launch yourself, because it takes the ownership back. And I have a position on a failure to launch, and that's, you got these essentially skill deficits or mindset deficits, or even just attitudinal differences that just need to be tweaked or to be developed in order to allow someone to launch. And I have a deep belief that everyone's sort of primed to launch, most people, 95% of people, but it's really something that gets in the way. So when we say a failure to launch, it's really an unaddressed barrier to launching. So I like to think of a failure to launch in 4 levels, right? So the first is, have you got the skills to overcome fear? Right, that's the first level. If you don't have, for a lot of people, it's fear as a barrier. It's fear as this sort of scary monster that's preventing them from doing the things that they really want to do. This level. The second level is, assuming that you've got all the skills and you've got a healthy relationship with fear, and you're still encountering barriers, it's probably a mindset problem. Are you adopting the appropriate mindset for the problem that you're encountering? The third level is that if you got the right mindset, if you got the skills to overcome fear, well, have you got personal systems in place that allow you to really launch yourself and stay launched? So we're talking about self-care habits, routines, and this idea of self-management and strategic thinking. And the fourth, is this idea of working with others. Like, do you have the skills to negotiate within a community? Do you have the skills to manage up and manage down? Have you got leadership skills? All this other stuff. If you're working with other people, these things are going to be important. So I wanted to just highlight a metaphor, because I think this will be really helpful in terms of trying to clarify where the problem of failure to launch is. Right? So imagine you get 30 people, non-swimmers, and you chuck them all into the deep end. Okay? Now, 10 of these people might just figure it out within the first minute. Before you know it, they're sort of exploring the pool, and they can get in and get out with no issues. Then you got another 10 sort of figure it out in the second or third minute. It takes some time and they figure it out. But then imagine that the last 10, the last 10 that sort of is clinging onto the side of the pool, and it's difficult for them to let go, and it's difficult for them to really engage in that experience. And if you ask the first 10 that didn't struggle, and you ask them, how did they accomplish that? How did they figure it out? Well, they'll probably say it's a function of experience. It's, you throw someone in there, and they can't really learn any other way. And sometimes I see sort of these reasons given, on how to support people who are sort of failing to launch. It's this tough love sort of mentality, but this misses the entire point. The point is, you can teach someone how to swim. It's it's a learnable skill. It can be practiced, it can be developed. People have known about this. And so you could teach all of them how to swim. You could teach them the principles and the skills of swimming so that they would all be better off, so that they could all acquire that skill more quickly and more effectively and be more effective swimmers. And so for failure to launch, there's a first concept that we've got to tackle at that very first layer, is that your relationship with fear. We all have this sort of inbuilt response to fear, and it tells us that we've got to fight, flight, or freeze every time we encounter a threat. For a lot of people who are struggling with failure to launch, I hear this sort of notion that they're feeling unmotivated or demotivated to sort of pursue their goals. They don't really want them. And the thing is, sometimes this actually gets confused if we sort of flee or we avoid our fears long enough. So take, for example, let's say getting your driver's license. I know a client who had trouble going for his driver's license, and over time he kept on avoiding it and pushing back the lessons and avoiding the idea that when you asked him 6 months after he had first conceived of the idea that he could get his license, that he just didn't want to get it. He doesn't feel a need to drive. But deep down inside, in the room, he would always say that, well, he's just damn scared. This idea that if we constantly avoid the things that we're fearful of, over time, this becomes almost habitual, or we tell ourselves, it's easy on our egos, that we just didn't want those things anyway. But there's a catch, because there's a part of you that does, and that's why you feel stuck. And so, there's a core skill that needs to be learned. One is that you actually get to change and influence your relationship with fear. You get to learn how to manage, you get to learn how to leverage fear so that you can pursue your goals. And if you have a really deep think about it, all the things that are really meaningful and sort of fulfilling in your life that you went to, that you chose to do, all of them probably made you scared in a little way. They probably triggered a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of fear. What if we changed our relationship with fear so that when you encounter fear, you don't get the instant reaction or the response to go, hey, maybe I should stop doing that. But instead you get like, hey, hold on. What if I tried to do this? What's going to happen? And before you know, once you've got those sort of things lined up, there's no stopping you. Fear becomes now a motivator, and it's a powerful motivator anyway, but now it's towards the difficult things that you want, but that are good for you. So I hope you found that helpful. That's part of this idea of breaking down the key concepts and the key barriers to launching. So good luck with a solo launch. Please like, subscribe, and share. Other than that, happy recovery and happy launching. Take care. Bye.